minutes with the okay, we're live.
Awesome. No worries. Hello.
I just wanted to explain a little bit of why I wanted to do this podcast, because I know so many incredible Indigenous women that they're not the ones out there being the influencers, the social media influencers. They're the ones who are actually out there doing the hard work day in, day out, and the ones who are creating change in their realm and in their communities and being leaders for other Indigenous women. So I basically wanted to highlight so many of the women that I'm connected with, because they're all doing such amazing work like you. And I feel like there needs to be more camaraderie and more celebrating of each other's successes. Do you know what I mean? Like, we have to sort of combat that whole lateral violence sort of issue that we're constantly dealing with in Indigenous communities. And so as a way to counteract that, to create just a sense of community and a sense of connection and celebrating each other's successes. Yeah. So, and also sharing the struggles. Like, every Indigenous woman who is succeeded in any realm has overcome massive amount of challenges, whether it's in personal life or professional life. And I feel like sharing each other's stories and helping other people share their stories is so inspiring to people who are maybe too scared to take the next step. And so that's really what I wanted the podcast to speak to, was how can we, by sharing our own stories, be a sort of help and inspiration to people who, may not be ready to take the step. And so,
and the reality,
the basis of why I wanted to do this.
The lateral violence comes a lot from scarcity. I mean, we've all been told that there's only so much money, there's only so much space at the top, there's only so much of this or that. And, and you see that a lot with, women who particularly have been in business for a long period of time and have had to, fit themselves into an existing system that didn't work for them and was never designed to work for them. So the idea of coming together and sharing our experiences and realizing that scarcity is just a mindset that's literally been put in place to keep us in our place. And if we can recognize that there's actually tons of room for all of us to be successful, then that's freedom. That's not needing to be fighting over some scraps that some shitty is. I hope it's okay, I swear, but I do just naturally, especially when I'm talking about stuff like this, some organization that is just feeding us scraps. Like, it's ridiculous.
So before we jump in, let's do just a quick bio. I'm just going to quickly give you an introduction. So my name's Kalkajed Erin Brillen. I'm the owner of Totem Design House. I'm the host of this podcast. I'm super excited to have Patrice Mousseau on the show today. So Patrice is a member of the Fort William First Nation. She's an Indigenous entrepreneur and the owner and creator of Satya Organic Skincare, which we'll let her talk more about how that developed. Essentially, you have a background in journalism.
Yes.
And so you made this big leap from a career that you were successful and I assume happy in, and then you took the great leap into the world of entrepreneurism. So how did that come about?
Wow. Well, it's kind of the Coles notes of it being that, when I decided that I was going to work in the world, when I think I was about 15, I wanted to do something that was going to make a difference to people, which is why I originally got involved in doing social services. Like, I was working with developmentally challenged people, with the elderly. I was working with women in shelters. And then I decided that, I wanted to be more of someone who looked at more of the root cause in people's ideas. And it was, sort of indicated to me that media might have been.
Did I just mute you?
Stage.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm trying to get this is my first time on this stream. I'm so sorry for interrupting your thought, but I was trying to make you the only person on the screen and somehow I bumped you off.
Yeah, you sent me backstage. It's fine.
I think there we go. I pressed the wrong thing. Carry on. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Don't be at all. Technical glitches are life now, right?
Yeah.
In fact, you can hear my daughter, her little voice too. So it's life. It's all good. So where was I? Yes. So basically, the decision to move into media was to try and have a positive effect in the world. I didn't really feel like that ended up being, that's not really the direction I found that the world of journalism was moving into. And, and I don't blame journalists per se. I blame the fact that, everything is on a 24-hour news cycle now. And, it's always about the sensationalist headline, and they don't, people aren't given time to really produce good stories. And there's a number of issues. But then I had a baby, and it caused me to really reconsider what I was doing in the world, and that, media wasn't the only thing that I could do, even though I did love it. Like, for example, I was the national news anchor at APTN. And it was amazing. It was such a great, it's a family. I'm still in contact with the team, the gang back there. Melissa, my dear friend, is now the anchor there. And, I did talk shows in Toronto on CFRB. I had a music show on Sirius satellite radio. I just did a bunch of different. I was the program director for Aboriginal Voices Radio, because, I really thought that was where I was going to be. But I had a baby, and then she needed me, right? She needed help because she developed eczema, and I wasn't happy with the option that was given to me by a Western medicine doctor.
Yeah.
So had to come up with something in my crock pot. Yeah.
And so that's how it all started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I still have the crock pot, actually, which I bought used off of Facebook for $15 from another mom, right? Because I didn't have a crock pot at the time. And just experimented. And then I ended up sharing it because, it cleared Esme's eczema up in 2 days. So I had made a whole crock pot of it. And I'm like, what am I going to do with all of this now? So I just decided to share it. And I did that for about a year or so. But I didn't think of making it a business. It was never something that I would never, ever have pictured myself to be a business person, ever. Never, because it was just my perceptions of business were not aligned with who I was as a person, the values of what I thought was business.
I can totally relate to that. Yeah.
and then, I met this amazing woman, Madeline Shaw, and she's very intuitive. And she said, you need to come to this Women in Business conference with me. I told her that I was doing this product, I guess. And at
this point, were you selling at like farmers markets and things like that? You weren't selling at all.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was selling it to people through like my kitchen window for like covering the ingredient costs kind of thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so I went to this business conference that she was like, you have to come, I'll get you a scholarship. I did. I went in with I literally had handwritten it on construction paper, like the label. Mm-hmm. And just saw all these other women out there who were creating businesses, in a different way, that was in line with their values, that I could, create something that was in line with my values, my beliefs. And it could really be a vehicle for change. Business does not have to be all about,
just making money.
Capitalism and extracting and, and taking advantage of people and like profit at all costs. Like these are like psychotic, targets that people have been looking at for business for so long. And that's not what we do as Indigenous people. Mm-hmm. And frankly, people who are, not crazy, they don't, we understand that there is limited resources on everything. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm very passionate.
No, I totally attest to all of the same things about how values were not aligning with the capitalistic vision of what we think of as business. That's I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
So as your business developed, at what point did you recognize you were going to have to give up your career and jump all in?
Oh, I was all in from the get-go. It was after that conference, because I wasn't working and I was just staying home with my baby. Like, she was just a
So
baby.
you were on mat leave, basically.
No, I was just a single mom. I was a stay-at-home mom. And no, I wasn't a single mom at that point. I was just a stay-at-home mom. And then I decided to make a business of it. I did my first farmers markets, was making some money. Then I was probably, I guess it would have been about 8 or 9 months later that I became a single mom, and I was able to support myself at that point from the sales at the farmers markets.
So that was within a year you were able to make enough to pay yourself.
Yeah. Well, and it was. I mean, I recommend farmers markets to anybody who's interested in running a business. You really get a chance to see what people really want.
Exactly.
I mean, I developed it for Esme's eczema, but I thought originally that everyone's going to want it for a baby butt balm, right? Because it works fantastic for that. But honestly, nobody cared because there were a million baby balms out there. But when I mentioned the fact that, in fact, I had created it for Esme's eczema, I had people turning around and throwing their money at me, basically, because the need is so huge. I didn't, at the time, it's 20% of the world's population suffers from eczema alone. And that's not even counting all the other skin issues that are currently being treated with steroids. So to actually have a real alternative out there, people were very interested.
For sure. So I have a question about talking about some specific challenges that you've had, whether it's in your personal life or with the business growth. What are some of the challenges you've had to overcome to get where you are now, either personally or professionally?
I mean, there's challenges every day, right? It's constant. And I think that's the same for everybody. Like, we have to constantly be trying to keep going sometimes, not even do better. Sometimes just keep going. Like, there have been moments when I have been laying on the floor and like, I cannot get up. I cannot do more. I can't figure this out. I can't be successful. Like, I don't. And what is success? Like, I don't even know. At the time, I remember specifically laying on the floor was we had gotten some media attention in La Presse newspaper, which is in Quebec. We had sold out, across the country. We'd done like $30,000 in a day online, like in Quebec alone. Like, it was just bananas.
That's amazing.
But there I was, so upset with myself because I had a great product that works. People wanted it. I was selling, but somehow, because of cash flow, like the amount of cash going out and in inventory, I was now out of stock and I couldn't figure out how to make this work. Right. So I felt like a failure.
Because you couldn't keep up with demand.
Yeah. So it was miserable. I just felt like such a failure.
Something that gets me about that is how people always say, oh, well, there's worse problems to have than that. But as a business owner, you feel this immense sort of responsibility. And you do feel like you're really lacking when you can't keep up with the demand. And it's so frustrating because like this weight on your shoulders is a serious burden. And, and it's not always the easiest thing to solve.
No, it really isn't. I mean, money solves a lot, which we of course don't have a ton of access to. But yeah, that whole like, oh, it's a good problem to have. Well, I mean, it's almost like you would feel like less of a loser if you couldn't make your business work and nobody wanted your product. But if people actually want your product and you still can't make it work, you feel like
demand is a serious challenge, though.
It is, especially for what's called CPG, which is what I'm in, which is consumer packaged goods. Like, you have to have an amount of capital just to keep an inventory, right? And then it's just like the money flows out. I don't. It's not like I am making money for myself. I am, a friend of mine to me coined this. She's like, I am just a way station for money. Money passes through me on its way to, to other people, kind of thing. So yeah, but I love it still.
You're also making a really big impact with how you are doing things differently. So do you want to talk about that, about how you're so committed to doing things like ecologically friendly and
Yeah, I mean,
sustainable?
a company should never be just one thing. It should never be like a single-minded thing. Yes, we have an excellent product, and it works and people love it, but you need to think about too, like your team, for example, like, are you paying them a living wage? Not just minimum wage, like a living wage. Are you able to create a business that is doing the best possible things out there for our packaging, and or can we do better recyclable and compostable and everything else? Our partnerships, we have partnerships with the Great Bear Rainforest to be carbon neutral. We have a partnership with the Plastic Bank to also, it basically, when someone buys one of our products, the stick, we are paying someone in a developing country to go to their waterways and pull plastic out. Then they take that plastic for recycling at their local depots, exchange it for credits for medical care, educational tuition, or household items. And then that plastic is then resold at a premium to large multinationals. It's what's called social plastic. So it's actually being reused. So it's poverty, ocean plastic, and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So, that is something people can do. We also like to think about, our community, where we give back. And it's not just about giving a percentage of our sales, which we do. We support Clan Mothers Healing Village in Manitoba, and other organizations as well. We donate to. But it's also about building community, like doing things like Instagram giveaways with other female Indigenous organizations, so that they get the followers, they get sales, everybody benefits. So you really, I think as Indigenous people, especially as women, we see all the facets of a business and we try to do better in all of them constantly.
Absolutely.
Because we're great at building community. We understand it's never just one thing. It's a whole larger idea. So I don't know if that's particularly, like, I'm maybe unusual from a Eurocentric way of doing business, but not in an Indigenous way of doing business, and certainly not, I think, anything particularly special. To me, it's just not being an asshole, right?
Yeah.
Just do better, and that's something we're always.
There is a stark difference between how Indigenous women do business and how the rest of the world seems to do business. And I keep seeing that all the time. And I think that it's very unique that we connected through the Indigenous Lift Collective, which is a collective of Indigenous women entrepreneurs. And we are always looking at a win-win. Like, how can we be supportive of each other in a way that every one of us wins? And when you were talking about that scarcity aspect of it, I think that all the women who are involved with this collective really understand that the pie can be infinite in certain senses. I'm not saying like in the material world there's like unlimited resources, but there is enough space for all of us to prosper and for all of us to do well. But just the willingness to work together and look to find those win-wins where we're uplifting each other is incredibly unique. And I don't see that reflected in other areas. I just haven't come across that. So I really appreciate that. And I was really happy to have you on as well, because you have been a huge leader in that group in terms of helping Indigenous women. I've called on you several times and you've just been super free with information, and you just share whatever. And it doesn't, there's this competitive thing that really, I think, holds us back ultimately. And when we can put those things aside and just find ways to connect, it's actually so much more helpful and healthy. And I just think that energy going out into the universe is really the best thing for all of us.
Yeah. It's a narrative that we have been fed that literally keeps us down, right? It keeps us small and it keeps us fighting over scraps. Yeah. Forget the way that we've been told that there's only so much, and realize that we have everything that we need. And, the sky's the limit as far as it goes to supporting and sharing each other and being successful by our own definitions.
Yeah. Did you ever have particular teachings or particular moments where that was really made clear to you? Like shifts in the way that helps you understand, like, okay, we can be collective and not competitive. Like, did you ever have any like learning moments where that was really made clear to you, or is this just something that you just sort of organically?
Well, I think it's been incremental, right? It's been learning from learning, picking things up from different resources, of course, talking with other Indigenous women, like just this perception of how business can be done. And it's interesting too, in, you know, when you talk about these more Eurocentric companies that are actually trying to now be more like Indigenous run companies and, you know, women led companies, because they're recognizing the value in not only looking at every aspect of the business as a way to do good in the world and do better, but also in that we listen to everybody inside that business. You know, I'd always been, I always, you know, indicate to people, like, this is the way that it's always been done. It's been a hierarchy of the CEO at the top, you know, and the workers. And we flip that and create a table where everybody has a voice and everyone is bringing value. So we create businesses that bring, you know, women, non-binary persons, people of color, other Indigenous people, that these other, you know, mainstream companies are like, how are you doing that? And it's like, well, because we're creating an environment where people actually want to be, you know, like they know that they're going to be safe and heard and respected and valued, because of course we want to hear their voices. Everybody's bringing value. And that's very traditional as well. Like in the past, you know, when decisions were made, it was never the chief, right? It was always the council, elders, women, children, two-spirited, that were putting their voices all together. And they were the ones who were enacting. And then, of course, the, you know, Europeans came over and they're like, oh, the chief's making the decisions, because they didn't get it, right?
Totally overlooking all the matriarchs who are really the driving force behind every tribe.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what is the most inspiring part about the work that you do? Like, what part really fuels you the most?
Oh, it's 100%. It's the people. It's the people when they email me or speak to me that I made a difference to them, or I made a difference to their child, you know, or their elderly parent, or whatever it is that they were taking care of, be it some, you know, themselves or someone else. I've had people, you know, I've met people that have cried because skin issues, there's so much more than just a physical ailment. They're very emotional, psychological issues for people, because there's a lot of shame, a lot of, you know, like it's more than just an itchy skin or a rash.
It's real that the first line of defense by the medical community is steroids, because, you know, there's conditions that you can get from using the topical steroids that actually exacerbate the problem.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has a condition from using steroids that has just, you know, it's been life-altering and horrible. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the fact that it's natural and it's organic and it works so quickly, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that steroids are awful and they don't work, because they do, but you know, in limited amounts. That's the thing. A doctor will say, use this for a week or two. That is never enough for most people who have eczema. And you certainly don't want to be using it all the time, because then you build a tolerance to it, and you have to use stronger ones. And then you end up like your friend with this topical steroid withdrawal and thinning skin and, you know, patches, like it's called a hypopigmentation. So you end up with like skin damage. You can get steroids in your eyes. You can get glaucoma, drooping eyelids. Yeah. Like it's not a, oh, this is fine and safe. Like there could be other suggestions first, I think. And then there'd be a lot less steroid use too. So we are trying to educate, especially medical practitioners, to consider that there are other traditional ways of dealing with it that are also, and, you know, and the academic proof is there as well. So.
So what is your favorite way to participate in culture? It's a hard one to answer.
I mean, right now, like, you know, it's still been very limited with COVID. People aren't getting the opportunity to be together and go to events and that. So I guess it's probably Facebook right now, the information superhighway for all of us, for Indigenous people in particular. Things like I forget the name of the powwow group that's out there now, and just being able to like connect with people digitally, I think is pretty great.
It is kind of, we are living in such strange times, but it is amazing how Facebook has allowed us to stay connected when otherwise we wouldn't. And I remember the first time I met an elder from Hawaii, and she said, connect with me on Facebook. And she said, sacred Facebook, like this is the place that we have to utilize as this space to share with amongst Indigenous people to stay connected. And I thought that's such a good perspective. Like if we always manage to keep that in the forefront of our minds when we're using the platform, like this is it can be a sacred space. And, you know, don't be an asshole is one of our favorite things to say in our Lyft group.
Nice. Well, yeah, you know, and I don't think a lot of people really know like how important Facebook is to the Indigenous community. Like it's literally how information gets passed around.
Yeah.
Like it's huge. So yeah.
Yeah, there's been many times where I'm like, I'm getting off the platforms. And then I was like, I would literally not know anything that's going on in my homelands. I would not know anything that's going on in all these circles of Indigenous groups that I'm connected with. I would be completely out of the loop and feeling a lot more isolated for it, which isn't that great.
Yeah. You know, and you get exposed to artists that might not be in your territory or like just ideas, you know, announcements, things like it's been pretty great. As much as Facebook has bad, it's also got some really amazing good at it too. Yeah.
Okay, so imagine that today we are inspiring the next generation of empowered Indigenous young women. Can you share with us a teaching that you received that really changed your perspective or helped you on your journey?
Yes, I can. And actually, this isn't something that I got directly, but it was shared with me from another female Indigenous entrepreneur. And I thought it was very profound for me at that moment in particular. So we as entrepreneurs, it's very isolating. It's very difficult to share what you're going through with people who don't have businesses that they have run themselves. It's a very unique, a unique place to be in. And so very often we're told that we should practice self-care, eat properly, exercise, go out and get a walk, do something with your stress, meditate. It seems like there's always to me, it just was adding to the pile of things that I already had to do. And I was feeling guilty, yet one more thing that I wasn't doing right, you know? So, you know, I felt like I was failing there. I wasn't taking self-care enough. And the elder had said to my friend, she said, you know, we as Indigenous people, it's not about self-care, it's about community care. It's about reaching out to people in your community, sharing, speaking, supporting, crying, holding each other up, being vulnerable. That's what you need to do to really feed your soul and keep you being able to get going. This is also a great way. I mean, you need to talk to other people to run your business. For sure, there is no such thing as a self-made business person. It really is a community that creates a successful business. But for yourself personally, you really need to have people that you can talk to. So that I thought was really, really, really profound. It's not self-care, it's community care.
It's true, because sometimes like no amount of self-care will help you feel energized, and sometimes it's reaching out to help other people that you end up getting this influx of energy, and it's almost like our ancestors' way of blessing us for actually helping and keeping the connection with the community.
I always say to people, you know, you know how it feels good to help someone. If you're not asking for help, if you're not reaching out to others, you're actually denying them that feeling of helping, right? And that can make your whole day. Hi, sweetie.
Hello.
Esme, come say hi. This is the inspiration.
Hi. I'm going to put
face.
this screen so that everyone can see. Oh, what a beautiful girl you are.
She's wearing her shirt from Devon, from She Native. That's one of the shirts that we got. Yes.
It's beautiful.
Okay, I'll be 2 minutes. I'll come right down.
I love how this is like such a prime example of how our lives are so intermeshed. Like we can't just be like, I'm a business person right now and I'm this right now. It's like you're a mom and you're a business person 24/7, no matter what's happening. So it's like an exact perfect example.
And it makes us more compassionate as people and it builds stronger bonds as well. Whenever I do we have our staff meetings are virtual. And, I ask that our staff members give me 2 things that they're working on. So everybody in the group knows what they're currently focused on, but also insist on giving 1 personal thing. So, I've taken a course. My kid just started school. I'm started running, like whatever it is. And the things you find out about people, like the gifts that they have that you had no idea, it's amazing. Cool. And then how, now I have, I found out that, the amount of artists that I have working for me, I have, other people who've done like incredible cake decorating, and now they're like competing like on their Fitbits. Like it's just
neat.
fantastic. So that is, I would definitely encourage people to do that with themselves and others. And if they have staff, do that as well.
So do you have specific business goals, or are you just like, how do you like strategize in terms of like what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, what I really hope to do is to make alternatives to steroids available to everybody in the world.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you plan to bring your brand global?
Yes.
That's your goal?
I think so. Yeah. We're already in Hong Kong and we've just expanded into the US as well. And the need is so great to have really good products out there that address these needs. Yeah. I don't see any reason not to be thinking as big as possible.
That's amazing. I love that you have the refillable packaging, and then the package that you refill it with is compostable. Like that is totally up my alley. I love everything about that. It's amazing. So that's oh my gosh. Do you have other samples there to show?
Sure. So we have, so this is new. You probably haven't seen this. So this is the compostable refill. And this is our new refillable containers.
Beautiful.
So it's kind of, everything's backwards. So this is a stainless steel container that was created by another woman-owned BIPOC business here in Canada. And these are handmade, stainless steel, FDA food approved, oven safe containers. So when you get this, you just squeeze this out, empty it out into here, melt this, let it cool in your oven. Just let it cool. And then you've got your satya in this beautiful, luxurious stainless steel container, which you never have to get rid of, right? You keep it forever.
And has that launched yet, or is that about to launch?
We have we have it up on the website for our subscriptions. But we are going to be launching it out more. And in fact, we might be doing like a Christmas gift bundle with that included.
And then you still have the stick though, right? Like that, the stick can be refillable. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. You can just throw that in your purse. It's like the perfect size.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, we just, instead of having to like, the refillable pouches and the container is good if you're going like head to toe, but if you're doing like a spot or, you just need to run it, the sticks are fantastic. And the sticks are what is actually connected to the plastic bank as well, because we're offsetting all of our plastic there. And of course, we have our small travel size tins as well as the jars. So we do have quite a bit offerings, and we are going to be launching a lip balm very soon. And I have a face oil that I make for friends that people have been asking me to release into the wild. So we will be potentially doing a face oil very soon as well.
Amazing. Is the lip balm going to be the same formula? Or is it
It's slightly different in more of a thicker texture for lip, and it's also going to have natural flavors to it. So no artificial, whatever in it. And yeah, I'm thinking pink lemonade and vanilla.
Yum. I love anything vanilla.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I think that is about time. We are so happy to have you on. I'm glad that you showed me the new stuff coming up. Looking forward to seeing that come available for everybody.
Wonderful.
So thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you so much for, asking me on. And I'm always happy to help whatever you need.
You have been there for so many of us, myself included. So I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye. How do I, oh,
I will end it.
bye.